Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Health Check. I'm your host, Dr. Vanessa Bolling. Welcome to Health Check, where this is the opportunity for you to check in on you. So stop, take a minute, check in on you for a few moments. Even if you're catching the replay this morning, as you know, Health Check is sponsored by Kingdom Health Connections, which is a health promotional resource center. It's all about cultivating a culture of health, wellness, healing for you and the entire family. So come on in, everyone. Good morning. Good morning. It is a beautiful Tuesday morning. Doesn't matter what the weather is, it's still a beautiful day because you're alive to see it. Good morning, everyone. As you can see, the topic this month is going to be about blood sugar control. The month of November, one of the things that we talk about in the month of November is diabetes prevention, diabetes management. So I'm going to be delving into that this month and throughout the entire month. I will also have a guest with me, a diabetes educator too as well. Come on and share her knowledge and her expertise in this area. But I'm going to kickstart this month this morning, and I pray everyone is doing well. Good morning, everyone. So as you can already imagine, we're talking about diabetes today. You can definitely get some pointers this morning on how to prevent, things to look out for your entire family as well. So tag your friends, like, share. Let's get the information, the motivation, and the education out there so we can live and live life more abundantly. So as you may know, the two most common types of diabetes is type 1 and type 2. So for those who like a visual aid like myself, who are visual learners, let me put something up here for you. So you can see here on the top, you see a healthy pancreas, right? A healthy pancreas, the cells, the beta cells in the pancreas actually create insulin, which then drives glucose into the cell. With type 1 diabetes, there's an autoimmune response and autoimmune reaction that is happening, which then causes the body to attack the beta cells that actually create the insulin and prevents the insulin from being produced. There's either little to no insulin being produced, and as a result, the glucose is not being driven into the cells like they should. So oftentimes you may see with type 1 diabetes, most times individuals are insulin dependent just because of this factor. The body's looking at the normal cells in the body's beta cells and attacking them as foreign, and it's not producing enough insulin to drive the glucose into the cells. Then there's type 2 diabetes, which you can see here as well. And what's happening with type 2 diabetes is there's insulin resistance. So the body's producing insulin. The beta cells of the pancreas are producing insulin, but as a result of different pathways that happen in the body, the cells are not absorbing that insulin or are not absorbing the glucose because it's resistant to insulin. And as a result, that's where you get those high blood sugars. So you see all these different mechanisms that are in place with different forms of diabetes. So it's very common with the different forms of diabetes to have different factors that are involved with it. So I know the big question that I'm really going to be answering today is it all my genes? Is it all about genes? Is it because my mom or my dad had diabetes that means I'm going to have it? It's inevitable. I can't change the history. I can't rewrite the script because it's in my genes. It's going to happen. I want to pose to you a different alternative here for your thinking and for your mind. There is an alternative. It does not have to happen. I'm going to talk with you this morning about that. So there are many different factors that are involved. Yes, there's an inheritance factor where there can be like a predisposition in that, okay, you've got a strong family history, but it does not mean that you have to have diabetes, especially type 2. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. And there are also environmental factors that can infringe on the presence of type 1 or type 2 diabetes in your life. So it's not all genetics. And believe it or not, genetics is only a small percentage of why diabetes is present in your life. or if you have a family history, maybe for your family members previously, it's not all genetics. So let's keep that in mind. It is not all genetics. It's only a small percentage that's actually caused by genetics. So with that, keeping that in mind, with it not being all genetics, I want to just pose to you this alternative viewpoint, in that with type 1 diabetes, according to the American Diabetes Association, they found that with identical twins, with identical twins, they have identical genes, right? But though one child might have had type 1 diabetes, the twin would only half of the times have type 1 diabetes. So that poses the idea, and it challenges the thought that it's not all genetics. Identical twins, identical genes, yet one may have type 1 diabetes and the other may not. Half of the times, the other twin actually has type 1 diabetes. So it's not all genetics. Also, with type 2 diabetes, although there is a stronger family history, and if you have a strong family history of type 2 diabetes, it is common that the child or the children's children will have type 2 diabetes. And it shows that genetics is a huge component. There's a factor of whether race is also a big component, or environmental triggers, but it's not all genetics. It's not all genetics. The biggest risk factor with type 2 diabetes is lifestyle, as well as the environment. So the environment that you create in the home, the environment you create in your body, those are the biggest biggest risk factors, not genetics. It's there, but it's not the biggest one. And I want to also pose to you another idea of epigenetics. And if you like visual aids like I do, here you go. So with epigenetics, and this picture actually, for credit purposes, came from the CDC website. With epigenetics, it's actually the study of how behaviors and environments, including our lifestyle, can cause the expression of different genes. So as I mentioned, yes, genetics is a component, but it's a very small component. And with epigenetics, guess what? As you see in this picture, you can tell your genes what to do. We can tell our genes what to do. And how do we do that? We do that by way of our behavioral patterns, by way of our lifestyle. If you've seen and you've been walking through your health journey with me and been tuning in, last month I mentioned that more than 80% of chronic medical conditions, including diabetes, type 2 especially, is caused by behavioral patterns. But we know that before the behavior comes the mindset. And this just kind of segues all together those who are in the Apostles' House. And if you're not, if you haven't watched the replay, if you're tuning in on the Kingdom Health Connections YouTube page or Facebook page, I challenge you, go to the Apostles' House website, like the page, like it also on YouTube. Phenomenal teaching, phenomenal teaching. We talked about coping mechanisms. And it just kind of segued all together, everything that we've been learning. And it makes me think, like, what are the lifestyle influences? What are the coping mechanisms? What are the coping behaviors that we've seen throughout our family line? Talking about genetics, what have we been seeing throughout our family line that we've been using to cope with things? Is it alcohol? Do you know that alcohol, it really attacks the pancreas? As I talked about the pancreas as it deals with type 2. Yes, alcohol overuse and overconsumption of alcohol can cause type 2 diabetes. Why? Because the pancreas, it's all a part of that metabolism factor. You burn out the pancreas enough, it's over secreting too much insulin. As a result, type 2 diabetes can develop. So can the coping mechanism, as we learn that coping is something that we do outside of God. Because when God says what? Trust, that's what we ought to do. We don't need to cope when God said to trust. The coping is found in, or rather, the answer is found in the trusting. But can our coping mechanisms, whether it's eating, emotionally eating, behavior causes type 2 diabetes? Majority of type 2 diabetes causes are from our lifestyle. Our lifestyle influences it. Are we overstressed? Are we anxious? Are we fearful? We're not getting enough sleep. We're overeating. We're not taking care of our body. We're indulging on carbohydrates. All these different things, and our pancreas is overloaded. And then as a result, there's insulin resistance that's taking place. Insulin resistance can happen for various different reasons, but I'm just talking about type 2 diabetes right now. And with even type 1 diabetes, there's an autoimmune component. And you think about that. Autoimmune, the body is looking at the natural, there's a certain gene, and I'm drawing a blank on the actual name of the gene that has been found, that not hormone, gene that's been found to be, it's very common with individuals who have type 1 diabetes. And you think about autoimmune, the body's looking at what's normal and saying it's abnormal, and it's attacking itself. That sounds like rejection. What's supposed to be there it's now, the body's literally now targeting that thing and saying it's not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to be there. It's not supposed to be there. And if there's a heavy stream of rejection in the family line, you can only imagine that that door continues to be open. Type 1 diabetes is still able to be there. Can being healed from rejection actually heal my type 1 diabetes? Wow. Wow, wow, wow. And that's with most autoimmune conditions, right? When we get to the root of it, we deal with the fruit. Sometimes the type 2 is just there because of the fruit of what's been going on with the root. Could it be those coping mechanisms that we've been indulging in to cope outside of God, without God, and now type 2 diabetes is actually present? Are these learned behaviors? We're talking about genetics here. If genetics, the actual genealogical makeup, if the genes is what is causing this condition, epigenetics, as I mentioned, epigenetics is how our behaviors impact the expression of the gene. So that means the gene could still be there from a family line or a family inheritance, but the gene doesn't need to be expressed at all. It's the environment, it's our behaviors, it's those coping mechanisms that's now causing this gene to be expressed. And as a result, type 1 is there, type 2 is there. It doesn't have to. They actually been finding via studies that type 1 doesn't even occur as early as we've been seeing it. Sometimes we've been seeing type 1 occur much later in years. I've seen it with an individual in their 70s, type 1 in their 70s showing up. Epigenetics, science is only echoing what God has already put in place. So what does genes have to do with it? Is it all my genes? No, it's not. It's our behaviors. It's the environment of our mind, which then impacts our behavior, then our lifestyle. Our lifestyle is influencing the presence of these things. Glucose, blood sugar control comes from what we're doing with our lifestyle and what we're not doing with our lifestyle. So I pray that this encourages you and this charges you. I really love what Apostle really said on this past Sunday. Again, you got to catch the replay, upgrade the software of our mind. And as we upgrade the software of our mind, the software in our body then becomes upgraded. And just like what I mentioned here with Kingdom Health Connections, that, today we have the choice today between life and death, blessings and curses. I call on all of heaven to witness the decisions that you and I make. Oh, that we would choose life, that not only we would live, but our descendants would live as well. That's our children and children's children. So she said it. She said, once we upgrade our mind, we upgrade our behavior, the software of our bodies, and then we teach our children, and they can then teach their children. So this can then be a culture of health, of wellness, and we create an environment. Yes, we know sin is in the world, but we create an environment for our bodies to now be able to heal itself, right? We can heal ourselves with our minds and the way we're thinking. If we just stop for a minute, do a health check, look at our behaviors, look at the coping mechanisms, look and see, is this a learned behavior, a learned pattern? And is my learned behavior, is my learned pattern making me sick? Oh, that we would choose life so that not only we could live, but our descendants can also live as well. And something that she said that really hit with me is God wants a healthy bride. Do you know that we are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a peculiar people? We've been called out of the customs of even our family and our genealogical lineage. We've been called out of the certain darkness and old patterns and old ways, and we've been called now into the marvelous light. Do you know that we're called to be examples? If anyone's supposed to look healthy, it's supposed to be us. If anyone who's supposed to lead a healthy and a whole lifestyle, it's supposed to be us. We're supposed to be the example. We're the beacons that are set upon a hill. We're not supposed to be covered up and filled with shame and guilt. We're supposed to be the example. So I implore you, I encourage you, let's do this. God wants a healthy bride, and it starts with our mind. It starts with our thinking, that we're not deflecting, that we're not projecting. We're dealing with matters, looking in on ourselves, make sure we're making ourselves a priority as well, so we can be that healthy bride that God is coming back for, without spot, without wrinkle. Of course, if you have any questions, I do see the comments here. If you have any questions, I'll go back because I've been on for a little bit. I'll go back, I'll look at them, put hashtag I choose life. You can also email me at kingdomhealthtah@gmail.com. I will go back and look at the comments as well. I pray everyone is blessed, everyone is charged. Let's do this because God wants a healthy bride. He wants a healthy bride, and we're his bride. We're doing this together. This is our culture. This is our lifestyle. And this is how we do it. Literally. All right. Be blessed. I'll see you here again next week, Tuesday, 9 a.m. Share with your family members, your friends as well. Like I said, I will have a diabetes educator on with me throughout the month. And we're going to be talking and delving into some things that can really improve your glucose control and even prevent diabetes. And I'll just tune in the rest of the month and you'll see the rest. Be blessed, everyone. Bye-bye.